Hey everybody, thanks for joining me today. I have a really fun video for us today. I have acquired my great-grandmother's vintage sewing machine. This is a Singer. I believe it is a 1947 model, so it's pretty old, but it's in really good shape, and I'm super fortunate to be the caretaker of it now. So I'd like to get it all cleaned up, get it all oiled, and just kind of run through it and make sure it's working really well. And then we're going to sew some projects on it eventually. So I'd like to bring you along on that process. So I'm going to get set up with some tools, and we are going to dive into this and see if we can give her a little revival. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just give this a nice cleaning. Just kind of get it wiped down and see if we can take some of the dirt and dust and grime off of it from sitting for so many years. So I know that I don't want to use water or any harsh chemicals. These decals are pretty sensitive to that, and the lacquer finish, it's all in really good shape, so I definitely don't want to mess anything up there. So I've got some sewing machine oil and a microfiber cloth, and I'm just going to kind of go around it and see if I can get it looking a little better, get some of this dust and stuff taken off. And boy, that really is doing the trick too. Shining it up real nice. And this little area down here, it looks like when it was laying down inside of the cabinet, some oil and grease or something has leaked out of this area and kind of dripped down here. So I don't know that the sewing machine oil is really going to do a whole lot to that, so that might take a little bit of time to get that area cleaned up. So I'm going to kind of save that for last, and I'm just going to kind of work my way this way. And this is really just doing the trick. It's shining it up really nicely. Look at how beautiful this faceplate is. The detail on that, they just do not make machines like this anymore. Not with this kind of character. So I am just going to continue with the sewing machine oil, just a little dab of it on my rag here. And I'm going to work my way around this and just kind of detail it and get her shined up really nice. Okay, so I went ahead and tried to clean this little area that had all that dried grease and gunk on it, and it actually worked out really well. So what I did was just cut a little piece of Scotch-Brite pad, one that's not very abrasive, and I also used just a basic kitchen degreaser, real mild one. And I just kind of very lightly scrubbed on this whole area, and it just really dissolved it all away really nicely. And this whole little area here where the serial number was just gunked up. You couldn't even see the whole number, and now you can see the whole thing. So that's really nice. And so then I just took some more sewing machine oil and just shined that up, and I think this part looks good as new. I would like to take off this bobbin thread tension unit here because it looks like it's kind of dirty underneath there. So I'm going to pop this off here real quick and see if we can get cleaned, that little area cleaned underneath there, because it looks pretty greasy and gunky under there. And yeah, it's fairly dirty, but that should clean up pretty nicely. And I am just being super careful with these decals. Don't want to let the degreaser sit on the decals, but for just a second or two. And definitely don't want to rub on them too hard. But it looks like that just dissolved that away really nicely. And to get a little more cleaner in this little area here. I'm using a toothpick to kind of get down in this little tiny trough down in here because that's pretty gunky. And that is working really well. All right. Good, good. Get a little more oil on that. Get that little area shined up. And that looks good as new. All right, so I will get that little piece back on there and we will continue. I think the next thing I want to do is kind of get into some of the inner workings in the mechanisms and get them all cleaned up and oiled. So we will get on to the next step here shortly. Okay, so I got the machine flipped over. This is the bottom of the machine, and it is in really good shape here. There's not a whole lot of cleaning that needs to be done here. I can see that the underside of the bobbin case is a little linty down in here, so I've got just kind of a little brush. I'm just going to brush all this lint out of this whole area here and get it cleaned up, and I think that will make this area a little bit happier. I'm pretty fortunate. This machine is a lot cleaner than others I have seen. You know, I've seen them in thrift stores and they're all rusty and super dusty and dirty, and I think I've got a pretty easy job here as far as the cleaning goes. So that looks pretty good. Just a couple little lint areas here I want to grab real quick. All right, that looks pretty good. Now I am going to just get a little bit of that light degreaser on my rag and just kind of give this a nice once over real quick on the underside before I get it all lubricated up here. we are good here. I think I'll flip the machine back over and we'll see what else we can get into and get cleaned up and lubricated. All right, I think the next thing we want to take off is this little plate right here. This is the reverse lever and stitch length, and I just want to get in here and see if anything in here needs to be cleaned or anything like that. So this looks fairly easy to take off as well, which is nice. Just 2 small screws. And this should just pop right off. Okay, that is that. Everything is working and we are good to go there. All right, on to the next part. All right, so the next step I think will be to take off this beautiful cover plate here on the end of the machine. This is just gorgeous. I'm just super happy with the condition that this is all in. There's no rust, there's no dents or dings or anything here. It's just gorgeous. So well, this is really easy to take off, I believe. I think that it's just this one little screw, and this should just lift off like that. Wow, look at the inside of this plate. There's a tiny bit of dust right there, but other than that, that is just gorgeous. So I'll just give it a nice good wipe down here. Be a good idea. There we go. All right, there we go. She's a beauty. On to the next part. All right, so the next little area that we want to break into here and clean up is this nice pretty plate here that's on the back of the machine. And it's pretty easy to get into this. It's just one screw, just like that last faceplate was. And Okay, very good. All right, well, I guess we are moving on to the next one. Okay, so this is where we are at with this machine. We ran into a little bit of an ordeal with taking this whole assembly off here with the motor, so I'll kind of run through that and let you know what we found and what we did to fix it. Didn't get any of it on camera really. I enlisted the help of my husband, and he was able to help me kind of get some of the issues fixed up that I found when I got into here. So we'll start with this. I took off this main plug. This is the power plug that powers the light, powers the motor. And if you'll remember earlier in the video, we had all of this black goop across the front of the machine that I needed to clean up that ended up not being grease like I thought. Once I got into here, I realized that we had some melted wires. I had some exposed wires. They had apparently touched each other and gotten hot and melted the sheathing. So that was this stuff that was everywhere in here, and it was all goopy in here as well, was basically melted sheathing from those wires. So we had to get it out to the garage and do a little bit of soldering and get that all cleaned up, and I'll show you how that turned out in just a minute here. So and I was able to get this all cleaned up as well. So that is looking much better there. To get into the motor, I had to take off the balance wheel, and that is this here. It's 2 screws that you take off and just kind of shimmy it out this way, and you expose this gear here, and that interacts with the worm drive with the motor assembly that I'll show you in a sec. So once we got that off, got that all cleaned up and everything, it was pretty greasy, which it should be, and it's looking nice now and ready to be re-greased. So I will show you the motor assembly. It was basically sitting in here like this. Once we got that off with a couple screws, this just slips right off. And once we got into here, we had a couple wires back into here. Hopefully you can see that were completely exposed. The sheathing had melted off of those as well. We had exposed wires, and it was just kind of crumbly in there. It was definitely not safe. Definitely not safe to run in any form or fashion. So with my husband's help, we spent some time late last night out in the garage and got all of that fixed up. We soldered, we rewrapped the wires, heat shrunk them. They're all safe inside there. And then these are the 2 wires coming out here. These were the ones that were exposed and causing this massive melty mess down here. So we got those all buttoned up nicely, wrapped up, and heat shrunk on those as well. Put a zip tie on this one just to remind us that this is the one that goes to the red connection down here. So that's what that is. But now we know we're safe to go. No more exposed wires. These were old wires from the 40s, and they just didn't hold up over time, and that happens. So we're pretty confident that these are going to hold up for many years to come. So this assembly also down here on the bottom, there's 2 ports. Those are grease ports, and inside of there are little springs and wicks, and I'll show you. We pulled those out, and those are pretty worn. No good anymore. The spring is shot. The wick is hard as a rock, so it just isn't going to wick that grease up. The purpose of that is you fill these ports with grease. It wicks up through here, and there is a worm little worm gear that sits down in here, and those basically grease this worm gear as you use it. So those wicks, we're not using these anymore. They're just no good. So we're going to have to find a supplier for these, see if we can get these replaced. Until then, we just don't have those to put in here, but that's okay. With the old wicks that we do have, there's no reason to put those back in here because they're just not going to wick the grease up. So our plan is to just get a lot of grease in here, and we can always in a month or so take this apart again and get the wicks and the springs back in there and get this working as it should have been from the factory. So for now, our plan is to get that worm drive back in there, get the grease ports all closed up here, get this greased and all good to go in there. We can get the cover back on, and there are also a couple brushes that go down in here and here. We'll get those back in there. We clean those up nicely with alcohol, so those are good to go. So we will just continue on. We'll continue putting this back together, and I think after we get that back together, we can maybe move on to the next step, which might be the foot pedal. We'll need to tear into that and see if that works. So we'll gather a couple tools and see if we can get this back together. Okay, so we are on to the electrical cords. This is the original cord that came with the machine, and as you can see, it is pretty worn out. It's got electrical tape on a couple different spots, and you can see it's got some exposed wires there. It's definitely had several repairs done to it over the years, and it's just not looking very good and not very safe. So, really not terribly interested in keeping this and trying to make it work. So, I went to my local sewing machine store and picked up a brand new one. They happened to have it in stock, so that was pretty nice. And it's got the same plug-in here, so it should work just fine, and I'm pretty happy about that. Definitely much safer to have this one. So next is the foot pedal. We did notice before that we had some frayed wires here, and as you'll see, we've already gotten those buttoned up here. So on this end, we had exposed wires, and they were kind of burnt and just coming apart. They were no good. So while we were doing the wire work last night on the rest of the stuff, we decided to get these all fixed up nicely. We've got these all taped here, and we've got a zip tie here so we can tell which terminal that goes on when we get it hooked up to the machine. And then the wires going into the foot pedal, we've also got those fixed up as well. So would like to do a quick continuity test on this, just to show you how to do that in case you want to test your pedal at home, or really any switch that you have on hand. So I've got the multi-tester here, and we are just going to turn it on. We're going to turn it up to ohms, and that's the little horseshoe looking symbol right there. And we've got the 0 there, or the OL, out of limit. And get that set up so you can see that. Now this part is a lot easier to do when you have a third hand. So I've got my husband here to help me push the button as we test here. So we're going to do just a quick test here, test for continuity, and we'll touch those together, and you'll see that it goes to 0, which means we definitely have continuity, so that's wonderful. But what's even handier is that we have sound to give us a beep. So we'll just switch that over to sound so we don't have to keep looking at the screen, and you can tell that we've got continuity. So we're good to go there. That's good. So I am going to hold these ends on here, and I'm going to have my husband depress the button on the foot pedal. So you're good to go there. Oh, that's awesome. It is working perfectly. So I think our wire fix definitely did the trick there. We are good to go. So I am going to get the machine back over here, and we are going to get this pedal hooked back up, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we are going to get this foot pedal hooked up to the machine here. Okay, good. All right. We are getting dangerously close to me plugging this thing in and seeing if it will sew something for us. All right, so we got the machine plugged in and we are going to test it out now. I'm really excited to see if this is going to work. We got the plug in here and it's got power. There's the light. That's awesome. I did buy an LED light bulb for this, so I'll get that in there later. This is actually the original light bulb that came with this machine, so I'm super happy about that. Seems to be working so far. So I am just going to give this a good press here, and oh my goodness, it works and it sounds wonderful. Oh my goodness, that is very exciting. So I do need to get some oil into all of these oil ports right along here. So let me just quick drop in each of these. This has been sitting for many, many years, so I want to make sure that it is all nice and lubricated. Oh, this is so exciting. And one more right over here on the bobbin winder. All right. Good. So we're just gonna give it a little power here to get that oil worked through all of those gears. And I'm gonna do it one more time. One more drop in each of these ports here. So just to recap, we cleaned up this machine. We took apart some of the mechanisms, got them all cleaned up and lubricated, and we fixed a bunch of wiring issues, so the machine is now quite a bit safer than it was before. And now we have just proven that it is going to run well for us. Get that oil worked through a little bit more. Wonderful. All right. Well, that is just really exciting. I am just elated that this is working and we did it. So yeah. Next time you see this machine, we are going to be making a wonderful project with it. I can't wait to bring you along for that. We're going to make a lot of things with this machine. So thank you for coming along with me for this process. It was a lot of fun and a huge learning experience. If you happen to come across a vintage machine like this or have one in storage, I encourage you to take it out and see if you can get it running and make something on it. So a lot of fun. Thanks again for coming along. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.